we go. We'll pick it up in a minute and hopefully we are. Can you let me know if I am coming? If I am okay, sound and visual, please. Oh, right, okay, BBA, is that okay now? I'm always playing about with this, and I never know. I never know. Never sound. Is it still alright, dude? Always sounds like a bit of an echo to me. Don't know why. And obviously there's a delay. Well, I have turned that down, so that should be better. We back now. Cool. So could you just confirm it for me, dude? That'd be really great. Just say A-OK. That would be good. You're a top man, BBA. You're always in there, aren't you? Supporting. It's so cool. Absolutely so cool. Really is. Yes, sounds good. Visual, right, mate? How about that for some eye candy? Hope it doesn't offend anybody. Hi, PGM3. How you doing, dude? Thanks for coming along. Yeah. It's really difficult. I always like to play around and find out what I can use as a background. And I think I punched in bar scene AI orientated and it came up with this. And I thought, well, it looks pretty cool, but something different. Anyway, you guys had a good weekend? I have. It was my my dear wife's birthday today. So we've had a really good weekend. For sure. This is interesting. I thought I'd go live because I think the past couple of weeks I've done the virtual down at pub chat. No one showed up, which is a bit. It's okay, you know. I can't expect anyone to turn up all the time, but it would be kind of nice if people let me know if they were going to come, because I can hang around then and see who drops in and talk about whatever. But I'm going to have to rely on the chat a little bit tonight and hope someone pops in, because you never know. They might do with any luck. What you guys been up to? I don't even know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Wakey, wakey. So weird this, doing it live. So weird. So weird. So where I know BBA, I know where you're from, mate. Is PGM3. Are you based in the UK, dude? What's the weather like over where you are, BBA? It's been crap here today, dude. It was lovely yesterday, but today it's been absolutely flipping awful. I've had a good weekend being lazy. Oh, nice one. Nice one. Is there a big delay? out of curiosity. I will type in the, because I never know actually, I'm going to type in the chat 100, press return. Oh, Stephen! Hello, Stephen. How you doing? Hello, Anti-Panda. Panda? How quick is anyone picking up that? Oh, Ontario, Canada, and it's freezing here. Oh my God. I love Canada. I did get the opportunity to go to Canada back in '88, I think it was, and had a wonderful time while I was over there. Found the country absolutely great. I stayed near Toronto, a place called Mississauga. Did the Niagara Falls, did the island trip on the boat. Managed to whiz down to Florida while I was over there for a week. But yeah, absolutely love Canada. Not sure what it's like now. Like anywhere, I suppose. Bloody, you know, some places, well, I think the majority of places, it's down to us to make it half decent, really. So BBA, you've had a good weekend. Good, that's great. Treat myself to a Myths and Legends Robin Hood coins today. Well happy. Yeah, nice one. Nice one. I presume silver, yeah. And yeah, Stephen, Andy Pandy. Andy Pandy, definitely. Pandy. Hot and sunny here as always. It wasn't too bad yesterday. I managed to have a cup of tea in the garden yesterday. Had a coat on, and yeah, it was quite nice when the sun was out. But today it's just been awful. I don't know where. I don't know if it's been pretty crappy where you are, Stephen, but been awful here, dude. Absolutely awful. Awful. So, what sort of? Actually, I can ask you in the chat. I know there's only a few of you in there, but on my virtual down a pub chat, there's no specific subject. It's just a general chat. So is there anything you guys would like me to talk about, or have you got any opinion? Well, that opens up a can of worms, but got any opinions on current state of affairs, or what's on your minds? It's so hard, this. It's so much easier when someone else is in here. It's always beautiful here in Yorkshire. I've never been to Yorkshire. I should go, as I've always wanted to. What's it like at York, Stephen? Is it nice? Is York nice to visit? Never been. Looks pretty historical and a nice place to visit. Yee. Sigh. Thanks for popping in, dude. You should come on, mate. Although we had a massive chat last night, didn't we? What's the solution to world peace? Oh God, to shoot us all, I think. Send us all to Mars, nuke us. Then it'd be peaceful for all the nature out there. Oh mate, I don't know. Perhaps we all need to just chill out a little bit and maybe recognise life's a little bit more precious than what we all think. Yes, it's a bit like Chester. Yeah, Chester was. We managed to go. Me and my wife managed to pop up to Chester. How long ago? Maybe 2 or 3 years ago. That was nice. The town, is it a city? Town. That was really, really cool walking around there. But there's some pretty run down bits in there. I'll be honest with you. The high street, without being too crude, tasted. I'm on about tasted. The high street actually stunk of urine. Outside McDonald's, all along there, it was pretty disgusting and vile, to be fair, which was a bit of a shocker. I'm sure there's places like that around all over the place now. It's pretty disgusting. But as a town, yeah, it was really nice. So if York's like that, then maybe not so much the urine side of things, but maybe that would be cool to go and visit. York is one of those places I'm just very intrigued to go to, for sure. Absolutely for sure. Yeah, but yes, I have no idea. Mick, good evening all. Thanks for popping in, dude. I'm kind of hoping someone this time is going to pop on. Never know if they're going to be frightened away, but we'll find out. We will find out. Hey, Paddle Up River. First time catching the virtual pub. Long time viewer of the channel. Oh, wow. Thank you. Watching from Newfoundland, Canada, and also freezing here. Wow, 2 people from Canada. Oh, that's really cool. It's really cool. We hear a lot of stories about different parts of the world. Obviously through our media and whatever we watch. And James, we'll go there in a minute, James. And I think Canada's had quite a bad rap, hasn't it? I know most places around the world have had a bad rap, but Canada's had a bad rap, especially during the COVID times. And as I said earlier, I visited there back in the 80s. And what a lovely country it was, well looked after. I can't believe how big the country is. It's full of wildlife, full of beautiful places to see. Niagara Falls was amazing. The old Made on the Mist thing. Is the Made on the Mist thing still over in Canada? At the bottom of the falls there. That was an amazing experience. But yeah, I had a really great time. Hopefully the country's just as beautiful as what it was when I went there, so perhaps you can let me know. James Clark said, "Hi Andy, what's your thoughts on the thoughts of Fort Knox?" It's a bit of a handful to say, isn't it? Could it be empty? Dude, it's I don't know. I can't remember who I was talking to about this the other day, but I'm getting to the point now where we listen to so much stuff, so much speculation on, if this is going to be empty, this will happen, or if it's got more in it, this is going to happen, and I don't know. It's become really, really, really interesting to observe the narratives that are built around certain narratives, if that makes sense. And it makes trying to look at things logically, to try and ascertain what possibly might be going on, so difficult. It is. I personally find it really difficult. Now, it's great to speculate and have a play around and come up with ideas and fantasize and what we think can happen, what we think can't happen. But if you actually trying to find out what possibly could be the consequences of maybe it being empty or full or more in there, it's just difficult, because where do you go for your sources? Because personally, most sources that I would go to, are difficult to trust now, because there's always that narrative around. So I hope what should be there is there, but you just don't know. It seems really weird that does it seem weird? Let's think about it. It seems weird that a country would be so protective over not allowing its citizens to know exactly what it's got. I get it, because obviously people are scared possibly of other people around the world knowing what you've got. But it is, I just don't know. It's even like in this day and age, if there was a a publication from or video evidence. Does anyone believe it? Will anyone believe it? Are we at a position where it doesn't matter what people put out there on the internet or on the news or on the TV? People will only believe what they want to believe, and I find that a bit of a problem. So I have no idea. I suppose we'll find out, and then we'll find out the reaction from around the world, and then we'll maybe start to find out and join the dots and try and work out what that narrative is all about. All I hope is that people that are investing in precious metals or whatever they're investing in, the outcome is of benefit to those people that have done the homework and, you know, took that risk and invested in something that hopefully will benefit them and their family going forward. So yeah, let's see what happens. Be interesting. It's fascinating time at the moment. Let's just catch up there. Paddle Up the River. First time catching a virgin. Well, yeah, I've read that one. What's your thoughts? Hi, Paddle James. If it's empty, imagine the uproar. Yeah, BBA. It's but then, would anyone be surprised? I don't know. This is such a weird one. It's going to be a fascinating time we're going to go through over the next few years, I think. Really fascinating. Canada definitely gets a bad rap, yeah, for sure. But we have so much nature here to explore. That's the bit that I really enjoyed. The natural environment and the habitat. When I was there, and I'm sure it's still there. I haven't been across the pond myself, but many friends from over there. Yeah, it's a lovely country, the UK. Really is. It's got some beautiful places, beautiful coastline, beautiful countryside, beautiful historic buildings as well. Yeah, it is really nice. Mick said the gold may be there, but overleased to too many parties, like musical. Yeah, probably. And this is the thing. None of us know, do we? But it makes for a very interesting, speculative. The people that speculate on all the markets must love it. I absolutely love it. Someone's making money somewhere along the line, and someone's losing money somewhere along the line. It's really interesting. Stephen, Andy has all the Fort Knox gold. Cobra told me. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be really cool? When the music stops, everyone wants their gold. Yeah, mate. But will the music be allowed to stop? You know, will they ever allow the music to be stopped? And if the music does stop, they better have a bloody backup plan. Yeah, it's an interesting thing when you think about it. A lot of people will if you're into gold and you're holding gold or silver, but gold especially, because that's what we're talking about at the moment. Lots of people want to see, oh yeah, gold go to £10,000 an ounce, all that sort of stuff. But I think sometimes we forget that how does that affect the economy? Not everyone's got gold to do. What? Surely we won't all be dealing with gold peer to peer. You know, what's going to be put in its place? That's the interesting one. Be cool. Be cool if it's 10,000 an ounce. Jesus, I will not moan at that. That's for sure. But if it does, it just means something really strange has happened. Very strange. 365 core. Why are you saying core? Thanks for popping in, dude. Why are you saying core? Are you referring to my new barmaid? She hasn't moved yet, but I mean, evening, dude. Listening in the background while I get the kids to bed. Cool beans. I'm shifting my focus away from stacking these days. Oh, that's interesting. Buying minor stock. I'm going to try and take possession of the physical stock certificates. Ooh, how does that work? It's interesting. Very interesting, actually. Not a bad call. if there's going to be a I would have thought if precious metals goes through the roof, gold, silver, both separately, then the miners are all going to jump on it because it becomes all of a sudden very profitable to mine. So mining stocks, probably a good idea, good shout. But I'm really not convinced at the moment they're going to let anything go absolutely wild unless there's a backup plan. I just can't. I can't see they can just dump the US dollar, overnight or within weeks. Not saying it can't happen, but there's got to be a backup plan, and that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in what possibly could be the backup plan if any of this comes to fruition. And it's interesting times, that's for sure. Very interesting times. Definitely. Without a doubt. I think personally, the more you can have a bit of most of these things, if that's possible, then hopefully you've covered all your options. It's fascinating, it really is. It's such a hard subject to even sort of get your head round, because the possibilities are enormous. And as I said to someone yesterday, I'm not privileged to that chessboard seat, so I don't really know what's going on or what they've got planned, or if there is a plan. All we can do is sit here and try and take that information in and hope that we've backed the right side of the trade, whatever that trade outcome's going to be. It is interesting. Interesting times, that's for sure. Very much so. But at the end of the day, we've got to stay healthy. My philosophy at the moment is, from an investing point of view, I'm just trying to accumulate as much of that crazy fear as we can in this country and put it to work for me. Pardon me, outside of the normal system. That's all I can do. Can't do any more. Take advantage of it more than anything. Oh, Traveller Jeff, how you doing, dude? Oh, thanks, mate, for popping in. What's Traveller saying? Oh, hang on, let's just jump to BB8. The US are stopping making pennies. I don't think it'll be long until the UK do the same thing. What do I think, or anyone think? Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. It's really interesting. I never have a pocket of change every day anymore. I might have the odd pound, 50p, 20p. I don't think many people have. Well, I don't know. I can't talk for everyone, but I can only talk for myself. It's normally just notes now that are exchanged as a rule. If you ever exchange cash peer to peer. But coins, yeah, of course they're going to get phased out. It's an aging technology that for me personally, I just can't see that's going to be a part of the future. That technology is just, the digital technology is just going to take over for sure, without a doubt. So, probably will phase it out very slowly in time. Traveller Jeff. Oh, wow. Traveller Jeff, I believe peer-to-peer in stable coins will happen in a few years with BTC as a base layer for banks. Gold will also serve as net stable funding. Both will have to get along. I concur wholeheartedly. Traveller Jeff. If anyone's done a little bit of or followed this logical pattern that's developing, then that what you've just said there is the most logical conclusion that I've come up with too. It just makes sense. The two, gold and Bitcoin, I personally believe are going to work somehow together in time, and then over time, maybe the digital asset will become more of a whatever it's going to be used for, you know, I don't know. But yeah, for sure, you can't discard. It's just why I've got gold and Bitcoin and silver, to be fair. You just can't discard something that's been around for God knows how long and used in a way for God knows how long, albeit it hasn't since 71. You can't discard that, that's for sure. But at the same time, you can't discard technology. You just can't. So, yeah, good shout, that Traveller Jeff. If you want to jump on, dude, you can. No worries. Anyone, any of the members can jump on. All the details are in my on the post on my What podcast channel for this Zoom call. So if anyone does want to jump on, that's a member, you're more than welcome. But like the river, it's interesting to speculate on the outcome either way. Yeah, it is. It really is. Watching the new administration and POTOS like a ball in a china shop has my head spinning on what the bigger picture plan is. It is, dude. That's really cool to say that, because it does get exciting. But I always find myself, I get a little bit excited and a little bit attracted to what I want as the outcome, which I think most of us probably do. That the challenge is to try and keep your feet on the ground and cover the bits that maybe we don't want to see, and how that's going to affect our investment or whatever we're doing, you know, or general life, really, because it doesn't just affect our investment process. It affects our day-to-day, for God's sake, what we buy, what we can buy, you know. It affects our currency, you know, at the moment, of what we're using to exchange to fundamentally just basically live, survive, whatever. But it is good. It's good to speculate. It's great. Not sure it's that healthy sometimes, but it's good to be adventurous in thought. That's for sure. Sire. Andy, what's the most valuable piece of advice you would give to a new or potential investor of crypto? Like it would. The most valuable bit of advice is do as much homework as you can to learn and understand why you want to invest in crypto. And I would apply that same logic into gold, silver, stock shares, whatever, businesses. You've got to work, you definitely got to work out why you're thinking about it yourself, and then go through a process of why, what, how can I achieve what my personal end goal is. What am I trying to do? Am I trying to get rich? Am I trying to just secure some money for the future? You got to think. Well, you haven't got to. You do what the hell you like half the time, obviously. But for me personally, it's fundamentally thinking about how I would like to live the rest of my life, wherever I am, and then do the research and put the time and effort in to try and make that outcome happen for you and your family, or whatever you're doing it for. So it's always going to be the same with me, mate. It's always going to be research. Know yourself, work out what you want. I think that's fundamentally the biggest key. You've got to work out what you want and be honest with yourself and be realistic with yourself, and never stop learning, that's for sure. And be around groups of people find those people that are like-minded, that are not forcing anything down you, got a similar outcome, so they can support you and you can support them. And move it on from there, really. There's no real definitive answer, but I think fundamentally it all comes down to personally what you're trying to achieve, and then learning something to try and make that achievable, if that makes sense. Cool. So hopefully that helps. Loads of people want these. I know you don't, Sire, but I know fundamentally a lot of people are looking for these quick answers, And unless you just want to gamble on something, which you can do in so many ways, shapes, and forms, um, then I don't think there is any quick answer, really. It definitely sits within yourself of what you're prepared to do to try and improve the circumstances of your life, wherever you are in the world, whatever that may be. For sure. Hopefully that helps, Si. Hopefully. Hopefully. Um, Paddle up river. I have to wonder if it's smoke and mirrors to distract from a bigger grand plan. You can't, I like that because fundamentally I've never thought personally, I always sit there and I think, well, if I was in that position, what would I do? And I think I would do everything I could to manipulate, whether it was a good idea, bad idea, manipulate a situation to try and set my end goal, whatever that is, similar to what I just said, but it's on a bigger scale and it has a knock-on effect on a lot of other people. But I think the process is probably the same. So yeah, you're probably right. We've come a long way, and in this power thing, money, value, whatever, as I don't know, it's just become more powerful to some people that play around on these chessboards that I call chessboards, and yeah, it's getting a little bit out of hand now. But what can you do? What can you do? But I'm sure they could be totally legit. All of this stuff, we could be totally wrong, and there are no smoke and mirrors, and it is just what it is. But it seems very difficult to believe when you find out so much deceit that's gone on in the past. If it's believable, that information, it's it's a shit show. I think me and Kem agreed once on one of these. It's just a total shit show. But what can you do? Oh, Mike. I sanded down Cooper nickel penny. Looks like still under the copper patina. God. Yeah, but nothing surprises me at all. Travel to the gym, I'll pop out for a smoke and come in a pub. Cool. And Si, great answer. Thanks, Andy. That'd be really cool to get Travel to Gym on. Travel to Gym. It'd be really nice because I know it sounded like when he was on before, he's got a really interesting little journey. And Kem, you coming on, dude? And the show must go on. Yes, definitely. I was just talking about, we was both agreeing last time we was on about it's just such a big shit show. Such a big shit show. Yeah, it's cool that the members are showing up, which is great. Absolutely great. So yeah, we are live, and if anyone wants to jump on members wise, please do. Looks like Traveller Jeff's going to come on. Maybe Ken might come on. I'm sure. Hopefully it works. Let me know if you can't get on, guys, if you're trying. But getting back to that, Sire, I think it's going to become very, very important that community. There's going to be a massive importance on community at local level now going forward. It really is, and maybe we'll get the opportunity to build things from local level up to government level again. I don't know. It's so up in the air. You look at the headlines of mainstream media, and it just seems like we want to just go to war. And then you look over the pond, and you've got DT trying to stop it all, and you just sit there and you think, what's going on? It's observing the differences and they're fundamentally so different now. Observing those differences are so confusing, but I think we've got to kind of remember where we are at a local level and try to carry on and hopefully have a bit of faith that, you know, it's not going to be a bigger shit show as we're all fearing, and they're going to sort their shit out at that level and, you know, give us all a bit of peace and prosperity. What words are they? Interesting. Very interesting. Loafer. Hello, folks. Is that barmaid? If that barmaid had triplets, no my luck, I'll be the one in the middle on the bottle. Is it beer o'clock yet? Love it. Absolutely love it. Isn't AI? I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? I don't know if anyone's interested in this sort of stuff. I'll tell you where I get mine from. It's all free, actually. Let me just pull up. It's all from a site called Pixabay. And yeah, they've got so much free background stuff you can use. A lot of it's creative art from people, from artists and creators. You can pay for some of the stuff. You can donate to them if you want to. It gives you an option. But there's a lot of AI oriented stuff as well now. And yeah, it's amazing. Pretty amazing stuff. Oh, okay. So, LOL for blah. Okay. So, what you need to do, Traveller Jeff, if you go to my to the What Podcast page and go to posts, I've posted a Zoom call meeting number and passcode, and if you bang those in, you'll just appear. You will literally, I think you did it last time. Sure you did. Let me know if they're not there. You literally say it's through Zoom. Totally. Getting situated. What does that mean? Have no idea. Tiffany Summers. Name a dino for a park. By the way, you sound like John Hammond. That was from Jurassic Park, wasn't it? John Hammond. Who played John Hammond? Wasn't that David Attenborough's brother? I seem to recall. I don't know whether to take that as a compliment or not. I have no idea. Welcome to Jurassic Park. The park of the future. Oh, cool. Kem's coming on as well. That's brilliant. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, is that who you mean, John? Was that John Hammond? By the way, you sound like... Name a dino for a park. Name a dino for a park. I don't know. What was your favourite dinosaur in the original Jurassic Park? The scene with the Tyrannosaurus Rex scene was so cool. So cool. The suspense. I mean, Jaws was like really cool the way they produced that. But yeah, they did a similar thing, but obviously with the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and used identification of sound and noise. Sound, visual and sound, with the puddle vibrating. Yeah, that was so cool. Really cool film. They've all been good, actually, to be fair. Really cool. That's great. We're going to get some people on. So yeah, name a dino for a park. Tranny. That could be Tranny, I suppose. Tranny for Tyrannosaurus. Cool. Traveller Jeff, have you found that? I'll tell you what, I'll put it in the chat. God, this could allow anybody to pop on. This would be interesting. Right. 840. This could bust my my stream if everyone decides to jump on. One, two, three. 213. All right. You're downloading the Zoom app. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, great film. Guys in your chat, what's your favourite film? What's your favourite film that you've ever watched? It's a hard one, really, because there's so many good ones for me at different times. Probably Jaws was amazing to watch. All the fuss around. What was the one? With tubular bells in the background. I can't remember the name of that film. Oh God, it's 70s. Oh, blimey. What was it called? The Exorcist. Yeah, there's a lot of hoo-ha about that. When I was young, obviously Star Wars was amazing to watch as a young lad. Empire of the Sun. What one was that, BBA? Was that the one with Empire of the Sun? That wasn't the... Oh no, I'm thinking of The Last Samurai. Yeah, I think with Tom Cruise. Empire of the Sun, I remember it, but I can't... Was that a series on the TV? Or was it a film? Interesting. Don't know why that's come to be on my mind. I don't know. Interesting. But yeah, going through the 80s, probably... I remember The Warriors, The Wanderers. They were good for cult films when they come out. Oh, crikey, what else? Obviously, Terminator. Most of the Arnie films, if you like a bit of action. Obviously, Rocky. Iconic. It's a war movie. Ah, right. Oh no, it hasn't. Yay! Hey, I don't know what happened there. It all just stopped all of a sudden. That's great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you fine.
Excellent. Let us. Can you just let us? I don't know what happened there, but it all went blank for some reason. But can you just let us know in the chat if you can still hear us? Traveller Jim, thank you so much for coming on, dude.
Yep, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It took me a minute to download the app, and I had to kill my browser and all the. I'm glad I joined your channel. Enjoy being a member. Sorry that I haven't been able to attend much, but I really appreciate the tone and the way you handle things. So,
all right, cool. That's nice to know.
Right on.
Oh, I go and get. Can you say that again? If I go and get my wife.
Yeah, right. I had to ask permission of mine too. I'm like, hey, can I type real quick?
Brilliant stuff, dude. I remember when you come on our last live actually, and one, I was absolutely blown away by your beard. So, I want one.
I just took about that much more off of it.
Yeah.
About 5 months ago.
Wow, that's well impressive. But I do remember that you're obviously, I think if I can remember rightly, you're from the US.
Yeah, I'm originally from Texas.
Yeah.
Last place I lived was Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula, in the middle of a national forest. and now I'm kind of on the road with the family for an undetermined amount of time to an undetermined location as an exit. We have no idea what we're doing.
Ah, that's so cool because that's what I remember. That's what I remember from the conversation we had last time. Because I believe you said you was traveling around Europe somewhere, or was that right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, I'm in Serbia currently in Belgrade,
That's
and
it.
I'll be relocating to Tirana, Albania
Yeah,
shortly.
yeah.
And this year I'll be traveling quite a bit. We'll be in Dubai at some point, Rome. I'll be at Bitcoin conference in Prague in
Wow,
June. And if anybody's there and sees me there, please come up, say hi. And if you don't see me, I am there. Just be patient. I might be in a meeting or something. And
wicked.
I'll be back in Tbilisi in Georgia, which is like my favorite place to be.
Oh, wicked. So, how long you been on the road for?
Uh, for with Bitcoin.
No, no, just traveling.
Oh, how long have I been on the road? I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Um, oh, 7 months.
7 months.
Yeah, about 7 months.
Oh,
So we
wow.
sold everything we own and kind of visited my wife's family, my family, and uh, really spent time with people back home in the States because we knew we were going to be gone for quite a while. So we traveled a bit in the States first, and then we got overseas in early October. And but this is our third or fourth trip in 2 years over into Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, and the Caucasus.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Oh,
been
wicked. So, how many countries would you have probably gone through or stayed through in that time period?
oh many uh, trips to Budapest happen regularly. We've been into Warsaw and Poland. Spent some time in Istanbul in Turkey, Doha, Qatar. A lot of time in Tbilisi, Georgia, Kutaisi, Georgia, Batumi, Georgia, Baku in Azerbaijan, and of course Serbia. I've been here in Belgrade. We'll be in Montenegro soon, very soon here. Of course, Albania. Passing through in Switzerland and Germany just for the airports, but we don't want to go
Jeez.
out in town. I don't like to leave the airport. I actually I really hate transiting Europe airports.
Okay.
Much much rather go through the Middle East.
Okay.
It's the there's no crime out in town for one, like zero. And they make it so easy to be there. It's so efficient, so nice. That used to be the airports in Europe used to be world class, and they're starting to slack. Airports in the U.S. are like traveling into Africa. It's just pathetic. So as soon as you're out of America, stress levels go down. Once
Really?
you're out of the once you're out of the EU, stress levels go even lower. Once you're in the Balkans or the Caucasus or the Middle East or Asia, like yeah, there's no stress.
That's fascinating, and this is what I love about. I'm really pleased you've come on because that's we we often build a perception with what's beamed onto us through TV or social media or media, and it's so cool to talk to someone that is traveling around presently in many different parts of the world to ask, what's it like and what is the spirit of people in certain parts of the world, and it's so interesting. You say once you get out of America, your stress level comes through. Get out of Europe, the stress levels go. So like, it's so fascinating, fascinating.
That's kind of why we're doing it. So I had a career in the military as a soldier,
Okay.
and I traveled all over the world. But my family didn't have those experiences. Of course, my experiences were um, in a different context. And in some cases, very long ago, I went overseas the first time ever in 1994 as a young Marine. And the Asia I experienced in the mid '90s was is not the Asia that exists today anymore. I mean, Singapore has become a massive city state. Kuala Lumpur is in Malaysia is huge buildings and all the modern amenities. And most of the Middle East at that time wasn't very hadn't modernized fully. And so, I guess the intent for me, I really follow a lot of macroeconomics and geopolitics, and I stay plugged into areas that are not popularly covered, just so I can get a better understanding of what's going on in the world.
Yep.
And sometimes I leverage that as an advisor to people in whatever capacity. So if you're looking to expand your tech business and you need programmers, which is becoming a thing of the past because of AI. But 4 years ago, if you needed programmers somewhere, I could have hooked you up with the right companies or the right people in Georgia, for instance, in Tbilisi, where they are more than capable of meeting your goals. The salary requirements would be much lower for you as a business, but for those workers there, it'd be above average pay. So isn't that benefit to the economy, and that came with tax advantages. So I also study banking, regulations on visas, regulations on finance, taxes, kind of how all that interplays together. I'm by no means an expert,
No.
but I have to have a general awareness of those things, and I
Yep.
have to know who the experts are
Yep.
to connect them. So, but what shockingly to me, and I've traveled all over the world, couldn't believe how the cultural differences really become extraordinarily pronounced when you leave like a modern place like America now with so much political division, how much that impacts your daily life. Once you spend 6 months someplace else, granted you're an outsider and you're not attuned to all the subtle nuanced stress and all, but I mean you really get a chance to unplug and just enjoy being somewhere. And we hadn't had a chance to do that in a long time. We've been working so hard for so long. That's all we did was work, and my wife and I together. And so we're working less, but we're working more efficiently. And now we're, just continuing to aggregate our experiences. I thought about doing a YouTube channel about it, but there's so many people doing it.
Yep.
It just kind of doesn't make sense for me to do it. And then I did have an actual production plan here in Serbia, but um, I had to cancel all those plans because of the protests that are going on.
Sure.
And most people don't even know about the protests in Serbia or what the situation's about. But
No.
everybody I have to deal with wants to talk about it, and so it kind of ruins my production plans because I try to stay politically neutral.
Yeah, absolutely.
I gotta travel in this world, and I'm a guest everywhere I go. And if when you go to someone's home for dinner, you don't get involved in a family fight, and you don't criticize the way they decorate or what neighborhood they live in. So you got to be a good guest. And I have my opinions, but the, everybody's got a what, and they all stink, and that's as good as my opinion is.
Yeah. Oh,
So
that's a beautiful attitude to have, though, isn't it? Because that will make you more welcoming to general societies when you're traveling around.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, everywhere we go, we're treated exceptionally well.
Mm.
We have many friends now, especially in the Caucasus. We have some friends here in Serbia as well. Some are in the government. We have friends in the government here, uh, pretty high up, and they're great people. Everybody's great, and even though there's current domestic um, conversation that's taking place, I'll just say it that way. All sides of that conversation, I've interacted with it at length, and they all have one thing in common is that they love their homeland,
Yeah.
and so they're going to figure it out. I'm not going to help, and if anything, I'll be a net drain.
Yeah.
So I stay out of that conversation, but I do tender advice
Yeah.
where I can, but that's without choosing sides.
Sure.
So more of a philosophical advice. But I get into some interesting conversations. I mean, we've met Chinese gangsters in Batumi playing bocce in the back room of a fake Chinese restaurant.
Really?
Oh man, I have some stories I could tell you.
Oh, please, just don't hold back. Hi, Kem.
uh,
Sorry.
yeah, there's like you really we try very hard to connect with people on a very human level based on kindness. And it's easier to do that when you run into other Bitcoiners because there's a certain philosophy a person has to possess in order to embrace the Bitcoin protocol, or the idea of peer-to-peer decentralized trustless networks that preserve capital through hard currency that doesn't inflate. And that the impact of how that can improve everyone's just personal outlook on life and how to interact with their fellow man is helpful. And most Bitcoiners really are trying to build a better world. I'm not a maximalist though. I got a lot of friends who are, but I'm not. I just don't ever think um, the other things that exist in the world are ever going to exceed full control.
Yeah.
And if they do, not in our lifetime.
Yeah.
So maybe once we're interstellar, Elon Musk's littlest kid is the president of the world or something, maybe then. But it's a journey now. But I got kids, my daughters, they travel with me, and I'm trying to give them the experience that just because you're born somewhere doesn't mean that's the only way to do something or the best way. And so just letting them see and experience the way other cultures handle their business,
Yeah.
where they interact with each other, how the food tastes, what the music sounds like, how to dance. So we try to go native everywhere we're at. We appropriate the culture, but that it's seen as a negative, in some circles. But people really get a kick out of it, and so we end up with a lot of friends and a lot of experiences, and then we capitalize on that by tendering advice whenever we can in whatever way we can.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Oh, that just sounds like a really lovely, really lovely lifestyle.
Well,
Dream.
It really does.
everything I own fits in a suitcase, though, so there is a downside.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to say hello to Kem. Are you all right, mate?
I'm doing all right. I'm so fascinated by this traveling conversation about traveling throughout the world and seeing different customs and how in our Western nations we tend to think of the rest of the world as being what we're told it is, and then you get outside of your little bubble and you realize, it's not like we've been hearing on the news. It's not violence and war everywhere you go. It's actually quite pleasant, and there's some very what we call third world nations that are actually built up pretty well now with nice infrastructure, and you wouldn't know that if you didn't go see it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Chemo. By the way, thank you for the video you did the other day on big picture stuff that Camel posted. I know a lot of guys that follow you and follow him and follow this podcast would benefit greatly from your work. And I'm already long in that position with you, but I really,
Hey, you got a higher high. I just actually I put on a small position on Friday at 3 o'clock. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if we get a higher high, higher low situation going. I'm cautiously optimistic, but we'll see.
yeah. Well, people understand what money really is,
The
what
debt, oh
value.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a complicated video to make. I've been thinking about how to put it forth for like 3 weeks. I'm like, I don't know how to like simplify this so that you get a lot of people that kind of understand the concept I'm trying to bring forth. But I mean, the charts speak for themselves when you see how the debt mimics the money supply that mimics our markets. And it's like it's all a scam. We're all chasing the wrong thing here. We're all
yeah.
chasing debt.
Yes, and the tax to escape that is great, and it's an unwritten tax, and it's freeing your mind and freeing yourself of values that society imposes on us through marketing, as opposed to values we choose for ourselves. And everybody's got their own special circumstance that's very unique. So one size doesn't fit all to make that trip. But once you make that trip, you're I hate to say red pilled, but it's just a one way street. You go down that road and you can never go back.
For sure. And the thing with debt is like it's like you're saying, it's not for everyone, and there's a value associated with this debt that we're chasing. It has value. Why does it have value? Because we say it has value. So we're all chasing it to pay for our goods and services. For now, it still has value. Will it have value in the future? Maybe, maybe not. Will Bitcoin have value in the future? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. But we can trust in the fact that, hey, there's something behind Bitcoin, the technology of it. It's like the opposite of debt, the way I see it. So maybe we go into a non-debt based type of society, and the debt just collapses because it's unsustainable, or they find a way to continue bubbling it up. In either case, gold and Bitcoin are still viable solutions to kind of take a step out of that world of debt, I guess you could say. And if it collapses, it'll be your only salvation, really, is gold and Bitcoin and sound money, actual lawful money.
Yeah. No, good money eats bad money. That's true. But, I can't and I don't want to, pay for anything with gold or Bitcoin. I like to, I use the currency of the realm wherever I'm at. But as I can make a profit, I try to store my value that I've created through my time and energy into something that won't dilute. And the hardest form of currency prior to Bitcoin was gold. And you can say hard assets to some degree, but I mean, times change, technologies change. If I die and I have an ounce of gold around my neck and they dig me up 1,000 years later, that's still money. And Bitcoin's a new version of money that we've. It's the first version of sound money we've ever seen besides gold, and so the use case of that is still being digested by a lot of people. But the disruptive nature of Bitcoin entering international commerce, it still has to be resolved by the people that still maintain a lot of power in a debt-based system. So the best case for Bitcoin is mass adoption by institutions, and they're taking the time now to try to figure out how to create a bridge into something hard like Bitcoin without completely burning down the entire system that exists, which would hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's the bankers. I don't love the bankers, but it'll hurt people. And so
Yeah,
there are genuine innovators that are working on ways of creating a yield out of Bitcoin without, but you can't inflate it, so you can't pay the yield in Bitcoin. It has to be paid in something else. If that yield's paid in a stable coin, which is pegged to a country's GDP, their gold reserves, their Bitcoin reserves, and maybe energy reserves, or something like that. That'll inflate at an understandable rate, and a forex market will resolve that difference. But if my Bitcoin can pay a yield in a bank, of course I'd put it in a bank, put the Bitcoin to work immediately. If gold used to pay a yield, you used to be able to get a yield off of lending your gold to a bank. That they'd pay you in the currency of the realm. That's fractional reserve banking. That's where you start robbing people of their time and energy. Once
yeah,
you
it's
go down,
inevitable.
that's right. Once you go down that wormhole, you get sucked into a new dimension of understanding the way money and markets work. You realize, well, I'm still gonna play the game. I'm still gonna work. I'm still gonna interact with my neighbors, but I'm just gonna try to aggregate my savings into something that won't dilute and something that's hard. And you can't do that buying fart coin. That's buying a lotto ticket, as Camel says. It's buying a lotto ticket. Listen, a lot of guys can make out, playing those games, but most people don't realize the guys are making out by the guys who didn't. Only so much capital gets put into a speculative asset, and when that's pulled out by the bigger guys, when they take the gain, the little guys are holding the bag empty. And so, but when you purchase Bitcoin or when you purchase an ounce of gold or a fractional bit of gold, that's never going to be taken away by someone else who beats you to the sell button. So Bitcoin's still super early. I mean, way early. Anybody in Bitcoin now, you're way early, and so you're better off doing nothing with it and just letting it sit and allowing these mechanisms to get built out, and just understand while Bitcoin's eating the good money, that the world's going to be in absolute chaos. There'll be war and depressions and crashes and inflation and deflation. It'll be all this uncertainty. But on the other side of that is more stability. So we've been through this as humans since the beginning of time, with every big war that's ever been fought, or every great empire that's ever collapsed or just kind of diminished. Um, so it's just our turn. Even though we've known good times since the end of World War II in the West, our chickens are coming home to roost. And me personally, I'd like to have a way to wait that out in other places that I see that are ascending while other places are descending. So if I can make friends, establish relationships, and integrate into a culture someplace that I see as building something new and materializing, and just coming onto the world stage, why don't I just go over there and try to be a net benefit to these people, and assimilate into their culture? And then I don't have to be at home and listen to all that mess, because frankly, politically, I'm homeless. And
Yeah,
I
and
just,
that gives you somewhere to go if
yeah,
you
that's
like
right.
if you're stuck in the West and you're like, well, my kids go to school here, I have a job here, and then you own a house and you have to pay on your house and you have to maintain your house, so you're kind of stuck in that rat race. Whereas if
Yeah.
you just step out of it for a second and you realize, hey, there's other options out there, then you can see a way to maybe make those options happen. But if you've never been like outside of your little uh, bubble or rat race that you're doing, you don't see the options, and you can't escape if you can't visualize it to begin with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the most place you can begin to make yourself free is in your mind, and by educating yourself. And if you continue to educate yourself and seek new when you don't know something, when you don't know, understand a word or a phrase in a news report, you should just take 5 minutes and read the Wikipedia article. It may be biased, but read it anyway, or ask Grok on X about it, and just take a little bit of time to just expand your knowledge base continually. And that freedom, regardless of your geography, is freedom that people can't take away from you. No one can take away the freedom you have in your mind. It doesn't matter if you're in prison, or if you're broke, or if you're free in your mind. No one can put you in prison. And I've been broke. I've been homeless twice in my life. I mean, I've been entrepreneur, so of course I've made huge mistakes. I've lost it all. I've had hard resets. It's been bumpy. Um, but anything's possible. I'm fine now. I'm doing great now. I'm just the best I've ever done. But I'm 49, and it took me a long time of banging my head against the wall before I realized it hurts every time I do it. And maybe I ought to try to look for something softer. And that everybody's got decisions for themselves, but it's it's the way this game is played. And if you want to quit, just quit. Just log off, get out of here, go. Get your mind off of it, because by not quitting, you're constantly having to take responsibility for every decision you make and every trade you make, for managing your own finances, securing your own wealth. Not your keys, not your crypto. That's right. You need to learn cold storage. That's right. You need to figure out what's the best way to buy precious metals for me, given my tax jurisdiction and all these other. And what about storage? And yeah, at some point we have to stop relying on society to fix all of our problems for us, and we have to learn to do a few things for ourselves. Then you become a person who's able to contribute to the market and to your society, because you have knowledge and you're able to execute on it. That's what creates strong economies, is when people with knowledge and capabilities contribute into a market with goods and services that's a net benefit for everyone. And then the next thing to figure out is the medium of exchange. That's of course probably why we're all on this podcast right now.
Yes.
Well, what is your thoughts on Bitcoin actually being money? So the naysayers, I've recently watched some kind of interview with some finance guru guy that's 70 years old or something like that. He says Bitcoin is not money and it can't be money because it has no intrinsic value.
Yeah.
And my immediate thought was, well, we're using fiat money as currency and money. there's no intrinsic value behind that either. So why can't Bitcoin be money? I don't think it's money yet, but I'm wondering if that's the actual designation of Bitcoin is to actually be money or something much larger than money, like the base for the next financial system that replaces our debt economy, our debt-based system, and it would be a whole different system based on surveillance blockchain finance, or something like that.
I think surveillance blockchain finance is coming anyway. I think it's inevitable. You can't stop it. I'm more of a fatalist in that regard. But is Bitcoin money? I think Bitcoin is money, and it does have intrinsic value because the Bitcoin network um, is the strongest, most powerful machine the internet has ever known. And the more the internet or technology or the means of processing information, to just two things you have to do in the internet: you have to process information, you have to communicate information. And when you understand how energy transmits and its mechanical and plasmonic phases, you can get really deep with this really quick. But what Bitcoin does is it uh, the easiest way to explain it, Bitcoin is like Michael Saylor says, it's the real estate of the internet. It's the base layer of the internet. If the internet is going to ever continue to contribute to mankind in any way, shape, form, or fashion, that internet, that free exchange of information must have a currency or a medium of exchange. And that medium of exchange has to be data dependent or data or it needs to come from data. And Bitcoin is the purest representation of clean data because Bitcoin is uh, fully audited every 10 minutes on a nonstop basis all over the world. You either have it or you don't. There's no way to fake it. There's no way to create more of it. There's no
Yeah.
way to do. And so when Bitcoin, it does take faith that system is going to continue or that system functions in the moment. If you once the people realize how well that system functions, you realize it's a superior form of money to gold. And I'm a gold bug, and I love gold. I really do love gold, but
I love
I
gold.
love gold. We all love gold.
I love gold. Girls, go get my necklace. um, I love gold, but I can't carry all my gold with me while I'm traveling the world. I just can't do it. And if I show up into Tbilisi tomorrow and I need to buy an apartment, it's going to be real difficult to pull that off with gold. But I can do it with Bitcoin. Actually, in the country of Georgia, this is my necklace I wear all the time. I keep a 1 ounce panda around my neck.
Nice. Oh, that's blingy, dude.
It's just so I can
Wow.
cross. If you need to cross the border in an emergency or something, you can bribe a border guard. Like, please don't shoot at the American.
I
Um,
like it. I like it.
but Dubai, you can transact in Bitcoin. The whole country of Georgia, you can transact in Bitcoin. Many parts of India, you can transact in Bitcoin. Nigeria is Bitcoin. El Salvador is using Bitcoin. Uh, Most places in America that deal in tech, you can trade in Bitcoin. If you live in Austin, Texas, and you want to buy a Tesla with Bitcoin, they can make that happen. Um, I mean, there are people already using it as a medium of exchange, but I don't think that's its best use case. I think its best use case is as a base layer for net stable funding for banks that aren't interested in diluting their value through fractional reserve lending. And so most people embracing Bitcoin are already against fractional reserve banking because it's a Ponzi scheme. That's the debt system that you're talking about. All it does is create debt. So if Bitcoin is the base layer and you can't pay a yield in Bitcoin because you can't inflate it, that yield will have to be paid in something else. But Bitcoin and gold in a bank that's verifiable, auditable, 24 hours a day, like I said, every 10 minutes, I just look at my bank's wallet and say, yep, they still got the Bitcoin. Creating a creating a smart contract that allows you to safely deposit or lend that Bitcoin to an institution without having to surrender your private keys that pays a yield in the currency of the realm where the bank is based is the future of money. And I don't see how it doesn't happen because everyone I hear speaking, whether they're a Turkish businessman or some banker. Wolf of Wall Street was interviewing Claire. What's the name of that bank, babe?
Oh, Caitlin Long.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
interview
yeah,
about her.
Caitlin Long. Yeah,
She's trying to do the same thing.
yeah.
So I hear the same conversations from Chinese businessmen. I hear it from Russians. I hear it from Arabs. I hear it from Africans. Everybody's trying to pursue that same goal. That's where it's going to end up. The journey there is going to be a mess. I promise that. But I know it's going to end up there, and it may get there faster than people realize. 2, 3 years, possibly. But the next layer on top of that, that's the Bitcoin layer one, that smart contract mechanism based in Bitcoin, not based in another blockchain. That's layer two. That's net stable funding along with gold or currency deposits in stable coins for customers that are using that bank, provides a solid reserve for a great bank that says, hey, we can actually do some serious lending here and get a decent return. That'll require the bankers to not charge excessive amounts of interest because that's too inflationary on the economy. So that makes things fair. But implementing stable coins into banking while stable coins are somewhat unregulated is impossible. So governments that issue currencies have to issue banking regulations for those stable coins, and they have to. That process is very complicated. It's difficult for me to get my head around it, but that has to happen. That will happen, and then every company, such as X, will come up with an X phone, the X app, and an X coin, probably Dogecoin, knowing Elon because he loves irony, and uh, and so you'll be able to provide content on X. That content will pay you a yield in Dogecoin, which is exchangeable through your bank to a stable coin, which you can use to pay your bills. And what that does, it creates separate verticals for stable currencies, and it rewards the winners and the honest players, and it punishes dishonest players, and it kind of self disciplines them. It performs that function in a couple of complicated social philosophical ways, but it does achieve it, although not with great efficiency, but it does work. It's better than what we have now. I don't think the dollar's going away. I don't think the pound's going away. I don't think the euro's going. Well, the euro might go away. I think the EU could collapse personally. Um, Individual national currencies aren't going to go away. But when China, Russia, and America, the big three, when they do trade with each other, and there is a trade deficit, it's not easy to put a 747 in the air full of gold. It's a lot easier to just make up for that difference by sending Bitcoin. And
Yeah.
that's the everybody's going to want to do business. So Bitcoin is money. It is going to be seen as the base layer, just like gold is the base layer for Basel III regulations for banks all over the world. And Singapore banks, probably the best banks in the world are in Singapore. They don't use fractional reserve lending. They don't lend out their customers' money. So like if you get a bank account in Singapore, boy, you're in good situation because your money's safe. That kind of honesty in banking is what's going to have to come back in response. The peasants are mad because we're tired of being robbed by corrupt politicians and bureaucratic systems in which we don't really have a voice. We have
Well,
an
that's
appearance.
that's the use case though there for Bitcoin is it's trustless. I see that as a huge use case moving
That's it.
forward. Once we lose trust in our infrastructure and or money systems, the trust, if it's not there, we need some way to implement the trust. And having Bitcoin as a trustless protocol could
Yep,
be where we're headed because of that. I
that's
would
right.
like you to touch on this net stable lending or net stable funding that you're talking about, and what would that look like? Like,
Net
you've
stable.
obviously thought through this, and what does that look like?
All banks are required to have a certain amount of funding based on their deposits and their assets and their liabilities. Keep it real
Yeah,
simple. So you got an asset side, right? And they have a liability side. When you
yeah,
deposit £10 in a bank, you think you have an asset, but the bank, in fact, now has a liability because they owe you that money, right? But they don't have that money; they give it away immediately. Um, so as they look at their assets and their liabilities, they're required by their regulators, depending on what country they're in, to have a certain amount of stable funding that says we're solvent or pretty close to it. And in America, it's like, well, it's more like the pretty close to it. And the rest is going to be made up by the Federal Reserve, with whom you all have a license to bank with. And so some things that make up net stable funding would be treasuries, U.S. treasuries, and for banks, those treasuries usually if they're in the mortgages, they'll have the 10-year and 15-year, but longer term 30-year treasuries, they have to have a certain amount of those treasuries, and they're allowed to have gold. They're allowed to have gold for net stable funding, but you're also allowed to have gold contracts currently, which means you can have a futures contract saying you're going to get gold at the end of a period of time, and just having that paper gold on your balance sheet allows your bank to pass a stress test every night.
No way.
And yeah, it's true. That's how it works. And it says, now we're good to go. What Basel III does, there's three phases of Basel for net stable funding requirements for banks. What Basel III does is it takes away the power of a paper gold contract and says, instead of gold is a tier one asset. It's the hardest asset your bank can have. You got gold, great. You got assets. Well, they're allowed to use paper gold as a tier one asset. Basel III takes it down to tier 3 or 4. I don't recall which at the moment. So that really disrupts the paper market in gold, because every ounce of gold traded by the LBMA or Shanghai or the COMEX is rehypothecated 200 times for every ounce in existence. This is how they rob us of the true market value of gold and keep everything down, while they continue to pocket the spread by writing those deals. This is a very corrupt system. It's corrupt to the core. Everything about it sucks. But net stable funding is only allowed to be certain assets that regulators approve. Well, just now, as Trump has been elected, I don't know if it was Lutnick, it was the Secretary of the Treasury or someone. They allow banks now to list Bitcoin on their balance sheets, and they can list it as an asset. Before, they weren't even allowed to touch it, and that was because there was some operations going on with the Fed trying to keep Bitcoin down. What was the name of the Operation Choke Point?
Yeah.
And so that came out. So now they're allowed to hold it as an asset. Well, now they got to figure out how this works. The problem is, you, I, and everybody else on this podcast has done 1,000 hours of research, and we're already trained as common men to just think for ourselves. But bankers and people in finance, they went to college and got master's degrees, and all they've learned is how to conform to a system they want to grow up in. They don't really understand innovation or these concepts at their most base philosophical level. So they have
market disruption and stuff. Yeah.
Right, they don't get it. So they've got a huge hill to climb on trying to understand Bitcoin. And so just to understand that Bitcoin is money, why they want to have it, a little bit of it seems like a period of uncertainty, but there are some banks that actually have teams very much dedicated to learning and figuring this out right now. And the first adopters are going to end up running all the other guys out of business. Frankly, the little banks aren't going to make it. The big guys are going to swallow them, and they're all going to learn that they can custody Bitcoin and gold and have net stable funding and meet any stress test in case there was, quote, a run on the bank. But in addition to that, they're also going to keep treasuries. So there's three assets. If you're dealing in the U.S. or the Western system, there's three assets that every bank is going to want to have, and that's gold, U.S. treasuries, and Bitcoin. And all three are going to have to learn how to get along. But right now, Bitcoin's the youngest girl and the prettiest girl at the ball, and everybody's trying to dance with her, and she just don't have enough room on her dance card. So
Yeah.
I like that. That's really cool.
That's the way it is. But at some point, she's going to get older and ugly, and she'll have danced with too many fellas, and then she's just going to be just like gold, just like a U.S. Treasuries are boring, right? They don't do anything. You just kind of sit there and pay 3% or whatever. But, gold sits there, doesn't pay a yield currently. And Bitcoin sits there, and it doesn't pay a yield. It increases in value because we're still in price discovery, but it doesn't pay a yield. If the reforms to banking that are coming probably triggered by the crash that we all know is going to happen. Once they have a system ready to replace that and implement the central bank digital currencies that are traceable, trackable, programmable, right, expirable, all of those things. Um, Couple that with the tokenization of assets, that new tech getting dropped onto this existing economy is incredibly disruptive. But and so that period will be shit. Everybody lose their shirt. Okay. But at the other side of that, you'll have gold, silver, Bitcoin, uh, and you'll still have U.S. Treasuries, or you'll still have the bond market. The bond market ain't going anywhere. The cash ain't going anywhere. There's still going to be paper currency. Many countries, they'll never even get rid of the paper currency. They'll have the digital and the paper form. It's just some countries and cultures are still very agrarian, and they just deal in cash just the way it is. So all of these things will still exist. They're just going to play a slightly different role and have different use case because there's going to be something new added to the stew pot. And that new thing is Bitcoin. It's coming. We're just really early. So don't put anything in Bitcoin you can't afford to absolutely lose. And don't put anything in Bitcoin that you think you might need in case of an emergency. But put your risk capital for sure in Bitcoin, and you do your own assessment on your portfolio allocation on how you invest. I don't trade Bitcoin the way most people trade. I exclusively trade the gold Bitcoin pair. That's all I trade. I don't trade anything else. I watch everything else. I have exposure to some altcoins, but that's just me buying. That's foo money, and but I only exclusively trade that pair because as those two go through their adoptive phase, there's swings on that gold to Bitcoin chart. And you can just ride those, you're probably going to increase your stack. So the only way to really measure your wealth is in ounces, Troy, and Satoshis. And if you're measuring it any other way, you're not storing for the future, you're living in the past. And in the meantime, we're going to have to use the
Wow.
currency we have. We have to use the bank system we have. We have to all work our jobs. I mean, I have a pension from the military. I'm very grateful for that. They don't pay me in gold or Bitcoin. I still got to get the cash, and I still got to pay my bills with cash and try to live my life. But when I can put a little aside and throw it in the kitty, it's got to either be a Satoshi or it's got to be a fractional or a full ounce of gold. And otherwise, I'm not saving my money. I'm throwing it away. And you can buy it in a house, but the housing market right now in America is, and actually the housing market in most of the world is overblown because of money laundering primarily. Really, I can tell you stories about that. But the new construction boom is a lot of money laundering, and housing's a bubble. And so, in a correction, when those assets come down, that'd be a great time to enter. But if a young man can afford to pay his rent or live with his family, I think he ought to do that at the moment. It's too expensive to buy a house right now. If you can carry it and it's the same price as your rent, why not at least chip away at it? Sure, go ahead. Every situation, every market is different. Real estate's very local. It's not a global thing. Um, but my wife and I did quite a bit of real estate in America, and we just thought, boy, this is the top. Let's just sell it all and get out of here. And that's what we did. But Bitcoin is money, gold is money, but your currency of your realm will be money as will be currency as well, and that will be perceived as money for a lot of people. And the digital form of that will be seen as a godsend when it's brought in to calm the chaos that's going to ensue at points undetermined in the future. So when
But
people
it's
say
not
everything,
it wouldn't be a godsend if you don't have enough adoption though in your average people owning Bitcoin. Like 98% of the world does not allocate it to any Bitcoin. So that could be
they're
quite
not
painful for the majority.
98% of the world doesn't have any gold either. I mean,
Yeah.
some people aren't going to get it. The poor are always going to be with us. We're never going to have people that aren't poor or make poor decisions. Um, the gold, what will be seen as a godsend is the digital form of that. When your government no longer needs 8 weeks to do this or 3 weeks to do that because the tokenized nature of everything on the blockchain just streamlines your life, and life's pretty nice. and AI is doing a lot's going to be automated, and a lot of people are going to be on universal basic income. I mean, the
Yeah.
guys that do the big thinking on these levels, they're already having these discussions about what's universal basic income look like, how does it function, the
It's
test.
already planned out. That's been planned
Yeah,
out.
they're still testing it right now. There's 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 guys I follow who are actively part of creating those systems. I don't like those systems. Let me be clear. I'm not a fan of them. But I know I'm going to live in it because I'm too small a fish to do anything about it. And
Yeah.
so um, I may not like the color of the new aquarium, but I'm going to have to learn how to get used to it, buy the right colored glasses, and just you can just get frustrated and give up, or you can say, hey, listen, there's some things in life I can't change, and I can accept that, but I need to change the things that I can. And what you can do is take charge of your mind and learn something.
And
And
that's the huge part of it is mainly take charge of your mind. And this is why I started doing social media in the first place. It was because I saw some bad economic situations happening or coming in the future sometime around this time point now. And it's not as important how much wealth you have or how much money you can make or trading the market or any of that. What's really important is that you see the potential of these bad things coming and prepare yourself mentally for what does a Great Depression look like or a recession? What would it look like if you lose your job? What would it look like if your gold stack, if it retraces back to $1,500 an ounce, or Bitcoin would retrace back to $10,000 an ounce? What does that look like for you and your family? And you need to mentally prepare for it so that if if things do play out like that, that you're not caught off guard. You'd be like, okay, I kind of thought this might happen, so what do I do in that situation? Well,
yeah,
$10,000 Bitcoin is cheap. So you got to plan accordingly. You
yeah,
can't go
and
through life thinking, well, it's never going to happen. I'm like, well, plan if
what's
it does happen.
$10,000 Bitcoin might not be bad if a dollar goes back to 1868 levels. I mean, it'd still be handsome. So that's the foreign exchange market. What's the value
Yeah.
of a Bitcoin? It's
Hmm.
expressed in dollars now, but what's the real value of a Satoshi? What's the real value of an ounce of gold? We have a table for what the value of an ounce of gold is for history, and it's been pretty stable for
Yeah.
6,000 years. For instance, I can go get a tailor-made suit right here in Belgrade for an ounce of gold, and that was true during the Roman times, during Greek times, during the Persian Empire, during the Egyptian rule. When the Nabateans, were ruling out in the desert in Jordan, an ounce of gold got you a man's change of clothes, right? So we can look at that. The real question is, where does Bitcoin end up with on the Troy ounce of gold? And that chart looks to be going up in crazy ways.
Okay,
I
so
don't
are
know.
you valuing your Bitcoin in ounces of gold then? Because you're basically trading that pair exclusively, is what you were saying. So you're using gold as your baseline,
That's
as
it.
for the
That's
past
it.
5,000 years, and you see what Bitcoin's doing versus that, and see that
That's it.
that's the only place you want to
Yes,
allocate for a little risk on exposure to a new financial system. That kind of makes
abs-
sense.
absolutely. Because I know the gold ain't going anywhere. And so if there's if I think it's time to rotate, it's because that price action is moving, and I can just read the chart and read the big macro tea leaves and go, okay, I think it's time to rotate. And when you rotate, you rotate. You try to leave a little in each just in case something unexpected happens. But you need
Mhm.
to be, yeah, I count my wealth in troy ounces or Satoshis. I do not count it in dollars, because what is a dollar? It doesn't exist. It is the fiat, it is an expression of a command. This exists. It's never going away. It's going to morph. It's going to change. It's going to be a stable coin. It's going to be who knows what. Trump will be
They're
on
going
it.
to slap some lipstick on it here and there down the line to make you want it more, and then
Yeah,
they'll rug
and
pull you.
they
That's
may
what fiat is.
listen. They may, when the shit hits the fan, they may, sorry folks, we screwed the system up, but we got the stable coin. And tell you what, just give us your old bank records, and we'll give you 125% of what was in your account before if you just come over to this new system. Well, everybody and grandma's going to run over to that. But
100%.
they might do 125%.
Yeah.
Maybe they do 200%. I don't know, but if the point is that they can do whatever they want because it's fiat. But at the end of the day, when those guys that control that system where you live have to trade energy or wheat or machine parts or with another country that has its own system, how are they going to settle trade?
Mm.
And that's going to be settled one of two ways: gold or Bitcoin. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's like when you have these people that manipulate the currency like that, not playing by the rules, what happens to them when they actually have to play by the rules like that? Their systems and their ideas don't work. I mean, they change the aspects of the game to benefit themselves, but what happens when they have to play by the rules of the game? And the paper contract of gold, like we're seeing in the chart of gold, it's telling a story, and we're going to see what that story is in a few months, and it could be massive changes coming. They
I
might have
think
to play by the rules.
for the last 40 years, I think most of the Western world has lived in a place where we all tried to achieve consensus based on common values. But in reality, behind the scenes, there was no consensus. It was an agenda driven, and consensus was generated by propaganda. And now you're starting to see the old power politics reassert itself through strong leadership. And so the consensus mechanism is gone. The EU will not figure that out without banging its head against a wall. And they're starting to do that now. So I look at these political risks and I see the EU is struggling to maintain order and discipline, and it's kind of showing its fangs, and everybody's realizing there really wasn't a consensus ever. It was really an agenda that came from Brussels. It was very centralized. Well, Trump comes and he turns the whole board game upside down. Says we're not playing checkers anymore. Now we're playing Dune, and he's just adding all layers of complexity and force. You've
He's
got
like
the
that kid in the
dollar.
schoolyard that says, "We're not playing football anymore. We're switching to soccer."
What choice do you have? That kid's got the richest. America's got the biggest economy, controls the treasury market, right? So now I think they wouldn't pass the audit in New York. To be honest, Fort Knox has got the gold, sure, but that's not all the U.S. gold. What about in New York City? There's big vaults in New York City and in other places in America. They don't got it. They've been leasing it out and playing games forever with London. That's why all that gold is coming back from London now, in my opinion, is because all those futures contracts stood for delivery because they realized Dad's going to come in with Elon Musk and we're all going to be live on television and we better not have naked shelves. And so all that gold's got to get flown over on every commercial flight between now and God knows when they're going to walk in the door. And they've got to have some shiny stuff sitting on the shelves. But who really owns that shiny stuff? Is that Australia's gold? Is that so? Is that Argentina's gold? And hey, nobody knows. Nobody knows. But what
Is it
if
all
Trump?
just painted? Is it all just fake, and they just spray paint it gold? Yeah,
I
we
know,
don't know.
right?
It's
That's
on.
right.
It's whatever they tell us it's going to be, and then we react to that
So at some point, that audit's going to have to pass muster where they melt down bars and have them assayed and remit those bars. And London does.
independently. Yeah.
Yep, it'll have to be done in a transparent way. And I think when they do that, believe it or not, I think they're going to tokenize those bars. I don't know what system they're going to
Wow.
use. It's not going to be
Dude,
Bitcoin.
they have to do the gold, and they have to audit it in an independent way. And when they realize how difficult it is, that's going to shine a light on Bitcoin and be like, wait a minute, we audit this every 10 minutes. It's already, the work is done for you. Proof of work.
That's
It's done.
that, that's why I think they'll tokenize gold and it'll stay in those vaults. They will
Yeah.
remint. They will reassay it. It will really be there. They're just going to tokenize it. They're going to tokenize all the assets. They just have to. It streamlines the bureaucracy. It reduces, the need for government employees greatly.
But what
And
I think is that that expands your economy, allowing for the velocity of money to pick up like that, to transact at the speed of the internet. You could
yeah,
tokenize all your assets, and that
yeah,
allows for commerce to happen very, very quickly. And that'll be a
very
boost
true.
in GDP, most likely.
Yes, and that'll also be a trustless system inside of its own ecosystem. It'll be trustless. If you want to buy a motorcycle from me and I want to sell you the motorcycle, I've got to have that NFT tokenizing the ownership of that motorcycle on my mobile. You can say, okay, I want it. We can execute a smart contract and that happens on the blockchain, and that's instant settlement right there. You've got it, dude. It's yours. All right. And I already got paid, and I don't have to worry if the money's fake or if I'm gonna get robbed, or all that goes away. And so the social impact of the implementation of tokenizing assets and implementing blockchain for governments, that's a net positive for humanity. But it's not going to be, man, Maxis hate it when I say this. It's not going to happen in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be base layer. And listen, I wish it would happen in Bitcoin, but I just don't see the powerful people in this world ceding the control. And they got a lot of ways they can manipulate people into valuing. I'll use the Matrix analogy. Everybody looks at the woman in the red dress, right? When Neo's in a training program learning how to walk through the
Yeah.
Matrix, and he gets distracted by a pretty girl in a red dress, and then he gets killed. Well, everybody
Or black
gets
dress. Or black dress. That's AI.
like,
Sorry.
my wife is thrilled with that background, by the way.
Yeah, so am I, dude.
What does your wife think about that, Andy? How's she feeling about
She just rolls her eyes, dude, and says, "Oh, you silly old git."
that? You know, get.
People are already fooled by the
Sorry.
woman in the red dress. Now that's the meme coins and the NFT craze in the last cycle. That's the woman in the red dress. And if you go chasing those meme coins, those women in the red dress, you know, some guys are going to get lucky, but most guys aren't. And guys are sniping blocks, and there's all kinds of underhanded things going on. You're missing the real value. I'll just take that woman in the red dress analogy one step further. Does the woman in the red dress look like the girl you want to marry? Is she the girl that's looking for a good time? See, the woman you want to marry doesn't dress like the woman in the red dress. You want to marry a woman that's stable and is, going to provide you comfort and love and a family and cook dinner and do all those things. The woman in the red dress won't do that. You ain't rich enough. So you can't chase those lottery ticket gains. That's not the real gain. You end up spending all your capital and energy chasing the woman in the red dress. You know the steak isn't real, but it tastes so good, and you have fun, but you're staying poor. And if you really want to build wealth, you have to learn to save your hard work in the form of a hard money. And there's nothing wrong with hard work, and there's nothing wrong with hard money. I've worked with my hands most of my life, and not my head. And I'm fortunate enough I can work with my head now. And dirty hands hold clean money. And guys are always going to be needed to fix something. And guys are always going to be needed to build something. And you'll be able to convert that energy that you put into work into some form of currency that you can then also convert into a hard form of money that will absolutely allow you to save for your future and possibly your posterity. And that's the whole point of doing this. Is we all work our butts off. We all work real hard. We all want a fair shake, but no one's going to give it to us. You got to take it. And the only way to take it is chemo. What you said here is just right here, dude. It's in the brain. It all starts right here. You got to educate yourself, and you've got to free your mind, and you got to figure out how does the market work, what is money, how am I saving for my future. Stop buying stupid shit. That's a tough one for me. I buy stupid shit all the time. But now my
And
wife is
that's part of the work there is educating yourself. There's so much work in educating yourself on what sound money is and what type of system you're in and how to play that system. Like we're living in a debt-based system, and like I was saying, the debt does still have value, and you can play that value. The debt is a tool in this financial system. If you really understand how to use it, you can benefit from it. I mean, really wealthy people, they benefit from it greatly.
absolutely yes. Just it can't be foolish debt, not consumer debt. Um, like if you have to mortgage a house, that everybody has to mortgage a house. Very few people can just go pay cash for a house for their first house. Of course, but you're borrowing for a hard asset, something that benefits you, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully, at some point, it's never paid off in America. You have to pay rent to the government forever. in the form of property taxes, or they just come take it away from you. But
Oh yeah.
um, I mean, I've owned houses. You know, I get it. It helps lock in your cost in today's dollars, and you borrow against that, and the rate of inflation will keep happening, and you'll be fine. But that whole ride that we all had to learn, that ride's coming to an end. That's the crash that's coming, and it's going to break a lot of things and a lot of people when it does. It may be in 10 years, it may be in 20 years, but at some point, all these assets will be tokenized. All of the currency will be programmable, but hard assets will still have value. Hard work will still have value. Knowledge will still have value. Gold will still have value, and Bitcoin will still have value. And so, if you can't afford to buy an ounce of gold or a tenth of a Bitcoin or even a hundredth of a Bitcoin, I would get on that internet and start educating yourself. The best thing you can do is invest in yourself and get smart. You can spend every day after work spending money, or you could spend every day after work just working harder at your second job, which is educating yourself. Yeah, the smarter you get and the faster you get there, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, the
100%.
best investment you can make is in yourself. Shall we introduce 1LV here?
Yeah, I was just
Hey
about going to
guys.
say hi to 1LV.
Hey, sorry. Yeah, I didn't want to
Hi,
interrupt.
1LV.
Can you hear me?
Okay, you can shut up now. Back to the conversation. Bye bye.
Exactly.
To hear what he's got to say about all this.
Jeff, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What is the perception as you move away from this Western fiasco, and me and Kem call it a shit show, into like countries like you was mentioning earlier on? What's the perception of what they're doing, the way they see what's going on? Is it any different, or are they jumping on, recognizing that, oh my God, there's a chance of us getting a little bit in front here while this shit show's going on? Let's try and sort of understand the situation and get in front of it. Is that happening, or is it just as naive and
Um, well, with the governments or the common people?
probably with the common people and people, entrepreneurs, people, that are interested in, you know, if they've got the freedom to do that? Are they
They
recognizing
do.
it?
Yeah, there's actually a lot more personal liberty in the East, especially in the stands and the caucuses, than people realize. Probably more than you have where you're at. Probably more than I had in America. Um, um, they have a different social construct because they're in an ethnically homogenous state. Most of these people. So if you're in Azerbaijan, everybody's Azeri. I mean, there's people from all over the world in Baku because it's the capital, and so you can hear 60 languages spoken when you walk down Main Street. But by and large, that culture and society is ethnically stable, and they're Azeri, and their political system doesn't have a lot of change to it. It's incredibly stable. The president, Ilham Aliyev, is his father, Hyder Aliyev, was the founder of the country during the Soviet collapse. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, Azerbaijan was one of the socialist republics, one of the Soviets. And as they kicked the Soviets out, they created their own country, and they've had incredibly stable leadership since then. Incredibly stable and incredibly wise, by the way. I do a lot reading in foreign policy and geopolitics, and some absolute monsters of great deep thinkers come out of that part of the world, and many whom I follow. Some follow me on Twitter. Now we have interesting conversations. So they don't really, on a small scale entrepreneurial level, focus on this. But I would say most entrepreneurs are aware of Bitcoin, and I believe, oh, I bet 100% of the guys that I run into that are aware of it, or let's say 99, have exposure to it somehow, and they're permitted to do that. Those systems, those are pretty free markets, but they don't have the angst or the unrest hanging over their head because their social system and their political system is so stable, and their leadership is competent, or in some cases actually excellent. And that excellent leadership provides enough stability. They don't really worry about it. They don't care. They are positioning themselves government to government on a geopolitical scale to adopt to a new and changing world. And a lot of those changes aren't even on the news. No one's even heard of some of the places that I go to and some of the things that I deal with. But I'll say this: there are people groups in history who tend to have a lot of power at certain times. We've been through the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, the Ottomans, right? Those are some just names have been currently the Americans, right? But those people groups can fade from power, right? No one fears the Spanish Armada anymore, but you can still visit Spain, right? Well, some of those groups that sometimes reemerge due to circumstance, and there's a reemergence in the East in the organization of Turkic states. And what they've realized is that they have a lot of really good geography, and they have a lot of good common bond, and they have a lot of energy, and this is natural gas in the Caspian and in other places. They have a lot of clean water. They have a lot of arable land, and they're sharing these resources amongst themselves, and they're starting to create uh, an economic, military, and socially cooperative union to serves a function to be a conduit of commerce between China, Russia, and Europe, and Middle East and North Africa. And that confluence of all those things coming together is called the Middle Corridor, the Trans-Caspian um, transportation route. I have a great focus in that area. These people aren't really worried about what is money, where's money come from, is this going to get tokenized. They have more of an attitude of they can't wait for it to tokenize, they can't wait for it to digitize, and in some senses they're already there. And so when I take this when I take public transportation in Baku, I don't need cash to do that. And by the way, it's exceptionally clean and it's beautiful and there's no graffiti, there's no crime. And if you see a policeman, you can ask him for help and he helps you. You know, he doesn't just like, hey, show me your ID, you know, show me your hand, you know, taser or whatever in America. Like these are very ordered and stable societies. You wouldn't know that from watching the news. You'd think,
No.
oh, wow, shit, the whole world's in chaos. The whole world ain't in chaos. There's pre-construction real estate investments in Uzbekistan that'll give you a hell of a yield if you're so inclined. I mean, I'm not a guy that's into that, but I'm aware of it. I've seen I've seen all kinds of progress happening. So you see the rematerialization of the Silk Road is occurring in our modern age, and it isn't even talked about. And these guys are going to absolutely dominate their space, and they're not looking to send an army anywhere. They're not trying to conquer anybody. They're not trying to convince you all to be Muslim or whatever. They just want to do business, and they're good for business. And their banking is good. The banking is stable. Cultures are stable. There's some minor geopolitical issues that are going to get worked out. You know, there's issues with Georgia, with its occupied territories of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. They're occupied by Russia, and then Azerbaijan and Armenia have a little kerfuffle they got to handle, and Armenia is going to take it in the ass on that one, if you ask me. There's some territorial disputes in Kashmir and Pakistan between them and India, Pakistan, India. I mean, all that plays. Turkey's got Cyprus between them and Greece, and Serbia, where I'm at now, has got Kosovo, you know, and Albania, and there's all these territorial disputes everywhere. That's all going to get handled. Most people in the East, like in China or in India, are absolutely they can't wait for Bitcoin to come and find its place on the stage. They love it. They're on board. They've already essentially tokenized and digitized their economies as it is. It just takes a few minor tweaks, so they're not going to experience a disruption. Excuse me, that the West is, and so it's really energizing to know what I know about all that the blockchain and the use cases for NFTs and tokenization of assets and settlement Bitcoin as a base layer and gold. And then I go travel east and it's like shit, they already got it, and they're further ahead on it than we are. Like what the things going on in the Emirates and Saudi Arabia, it's fascinating, man. They build a mall that'll blow your mind away. Every all their infrastructure. I mean, everything's new because they didn't have a damn thing in 1991 when the Soviets collapsed. And now everything's new. Everything's new and it's pretty and it works and it's paid for and they don't tax the shit out of their people. And but if you knew what I paid in bills in Georgia, you'd probably all move there tomorrow. And those people would love to have you, by the way, you know. But internet, healthcare, electric, gas heating, phone, everything, maybe $250 a month, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's at a higher quality than I can get in Dallas.
And the food
And
is great, I hear.
it's phenomenal. The wine's amazing. I should.
What do you know? What's the average salary? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, yeah. So what's interesting? I have a Western salary, so I don't. To me, it's a great value. The average salary in Georgia is 1,500 euros a month,
Mm.
something like that. Serbia, it's less. It's like 1,300 euros a month, but it's still upcoming. But if you look at Georgia's GDP numbers, Azerbaijan's GDP numbers, they're some of the best performing economies in the world. If you look at tech expansion, infrastructure improvement, notwithstanding the train collapse here in Serbia at Novi Sad, but if you look at tech advance, infrastructure advance, and improvement of salaries and GDP, everything's on an upward trajectory, growing in the Balkans, in Central and Eastern Europe, Southern Europe. Greece is left out of that. Macedonia hasn't seen that. The rising tide hasn't lifted all the boats yet. Azerbaijan is a completely different economy. They're very insulated from any outside influence. They haven't experienced any housing inflation that Georgia right next door has. People left Russia during the war. It created, and they went to Georgia and Serbia and Hungary and Germany and Poland and all those places Ukrainians and Russians went, created a demand for housing, created inflation. There wasn't enough to go around. That didn't happen in Azerbaijan. Their currency, I believe, it's not pegged to the dollar, but it might as well be. It's called the manat. It's incredibly stable. Um, People, I have working class and higher class friends in all of these countries, and no one struggles to pay their bills. No one worries about where their next meal is coming from. No one worries about losing their home. They do have other worries that'll be unique to their, national situation, but they're minor compared to the bigger things that we tend to be worried about. Same in China. I have a lot of friends that are Chinese that I meet out there because the Chinese are doing business everywhere. And man, these guys, they're they're not anything you would imagine them to be. I still can't fully understand Chinese culture and the Chinese mindset, but these guys are slick. They're well educated. They're polyglots. They speak 3 or 4 languages. And I mean, like the cook at like my favorite Chinese restaurant in Tbilisi. He's just a cook. He just, he came from I don't remember what city he came from. But he's just a cook there. He's like some guy he knew some guy, got him the job. He flew to Tbilisi and he can get a visa to be there. And he's just working there. He loves his life. He thinks it's exotic and crazy. But he's a working class guy. But back home, he still maintains like 100 square meter apartment. His family goes on vacation. He owns a car. I think their economies are functioning way better in the East than our economies are functioning in the West. I expected to see the exact opposite when I went, but that ain't the case. And so I'm like, well, while my Western value is up here compared to over here, I can move over and be a bigger fish and get myself a little more opportunity. Why don't I do that? Because at some point they're catching up. They're catching up in the tech. They're catching up in the infrastructure. They've passed us in a lot of ways, but they're catching up in others. And once that equalizes, the ability to go from the west to the east, that'll be expensive. Right now, it's cheap from a Western perspective, but it'll be, and at some point, it's going to go like this, and it's going to be more expensive to be in the east. That's my long-term macro projection. So if I can get a residence permit or a passport just for investing in some property and give my kids an opportunity to choose which hemisphere they want to live in, I think I've done a good job. And that's not bad for a working class guy like me. Um, it, it took a long time to get here, but then it's been a fun trip. And now I'm in the good part where I just get to go pick where I want to live.
Amazing, dude. Absolutely amazing. Why do you think that we in the West, what is it that, from a propaganda point of view, that we aren't given that same sort of outlook that you've just explained.
Mm.
What's the deeper issue here? Is it protection of something? Is it what? That's the bit I always try to struggle with. What do you think that could be?
I think we had it in the West for a long time.
Yeah.
Post the Great War. People on the good side of the Bretton Woods Agreement, which would be the UK and America, we did have it. We had cornered the market on television and movies and quality of life, and everything really was better in the West. And if you wanted opportunities, I mean, just look at the migration patterns, right? Of who came over to America and when the Polish came, when the Irish came, when the Germans came, right? And look, immigration is a good thing. I want to be clear. It's a good thing. It's an important thing. But immigration is also an indicator. Something's better somewhere else. And quality immigrant that you get and how those people, how their outcomes are within 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, that starts to be an indicator of who's got the gold and who doesn't. And I think you're seeing right now the West rested on its laurels for so long. The East had a chance to catch up. And right now they're about even, but it's more like a pendulum, and the pendulum is swinging to the East. And so Viktor Orban talks about this, whether you agree with his politics or not, is besides the point. Viktor Orban talks about this ad nauseum. And by the way, he got Hungary to become a member of not a member, he's a permanent observer of the Organization of Turkic States. And he's in that club with the East. He said that pendulum is swinging east and that the future will be in the East. And I took that seriously when I heard him say that. And I'd already been looking out this way. Primarily Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist, if you ever heard of him. Andrew Henderson helped me see a lot of that. Max Kaiser, Scott Ritter, was a lot. I consume a lot of news all the time. And Bitcoin got me out that direction. Where's the best Bitcoin laws? Where's it legal to, buy a house with Bitcoin? Oh, whoa, I never heard of Tbilisi. Where the hell is Tbilisi? Look on a map. It's way over there. And you learn a lot about Georgian history. They're really experiencing that pendulum swing their direction where all the talent is starting to show up. And so now I'm not the only Western guy now when I'm in Baku. I mean, there's not a lot of Americans, but there's more of us. And there's guys that are thinking and guys that are coming and saying, hey, I think there's better opportunity here than there is back there. Because back there is regulation. Everything's kind of peaked. Everybody's already took their toys and no one's sharing. And there's nowhere else to go to find upward mobility. But if I don't wrap myself in a flag and just go live somewhere else, I got better opportunity. Why wouldn't I do that? I mean, coming from America, it's obviously I'm not a Native American. At some point, all of my extended relatives live somewhere else. And at some point, one of them made a decision that it would be better to move. And they didn't know the language. They didn't know what the food would be like. And they didn't have a guarantee they were going to make it, but they went anyway. And now here I am, and I'm just making the same choice my ancestors already made.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, kind of full circle. A little bit of a no-brainer. But yeah, they out east, it's not without its hiccups.
Yeah, sure.
It's not without challenges, but it's. I think the reason you see that is because they got introduced to the new innovation and the new tech much later than the West did. We had indoor plumbing and washing machines and televisions for too long, and they didn't have any of it until the 90s. And now they immediately got the internet with it, and they all learned English and learned from our mistakes and went, shit, we can do better. And they're doing better. It's quite impressive, actually.
Yeah. So in a way, maybe you're depicting with that the West has rested on its laurels for far too long now, got complacent, and now we've got to rediscover ourselves again, maybe within the whole system.
Yeah, or have time for a little bit of a new system.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
did
Exactly.
they,
Yeah.
yeah, how did they make the transition from shit to gold in the East? Well, the Soviet Union collapsed.
Yeah.
It collapsed, and then it was this big demon. Oh no, it's the Soviets, the Russians, right? I grew up with that, right? Yeah, I'm sure you grew up with the same. Fear the duck and cover drills. They're going to nuke us and watch out. And well, they didn't have the Soviets didn't have such a good system after all. And as soon as it collapsed, we got to see behind the curtain and realized immediately, wow, they weren't that system wasn't very tough. The people were tough, but the system wasn't tough. And so the West has that veneer now of, hey, we're tough, especially the EU, right? We're tough, we're tough. And once that collapses, everybody's going to look and say, well, shit, they had so much debt and so much bullshit gold in the market and so many bubbles and assets. They didn't have it after all. Maybe Trump swings open the doors. There ain't no gold. Who knows what happens? The paper market explodes and gold goes to 20K and everything's in a wreck. I don't know, but something has to change
Yeah.
on a quantum level in Western society, financially and politically. And we've seen the beginnings of that manifestation of change with nationalist movements in Hungary and Slovakia and now Germany,
Germany. Yeah.
starting to brew in Italy and France and in America with Trump, right? And I mean, hell, El Salvador is the safest country in the Western Hemisphere right now. So we're already in bizarro world. So time to everybody rethink your
Yeah, that's kind of analogous to once you discover Bitcoin, you go through a whole new wave of thinking about things. And El Salvador did it on a national level where they're like, we're going to adopt Bitcoin. Now we've all of a sudden, start to see things logically, and we can make our state the safest state in the Americas. It's like
yeah,
crazy.
like overnight, like it happened in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. What, LV? Did you want to jump in with anything?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, but now the cozy Sunday evening conversation brought me somehow. We went from paying for a suit, 1 whole ounce of gold, to to all over the corners of the world. Yeah, which I like actually. I mean, Traveler Jeff has to have really nice suits, 1 whole ounce of gold. Here in Italy, I think you could get a lot of nice suits for that. No, actually, I was wondering. I was just something that kind of keeps me thinking is it's like there's a lot of people from, let's call it the global West, um, like particularly obviously the US and Europe and the UK, and we somehow going somewhere else. I see, I guess it's even like whole communities on YouTube that somehow broadcast their communities, their community lifestyle, and I'm just always concerned how that affects the actual people that live in those places, particularly when this is done at scale with. I mean, I'm not saying that Jeff, this is your case, but I'm just wondering in general because some people they might have a little bit more sensitivity for this. Some people might have next to no sensitivity for how this actually affects the people around the actual local people from that place, because obviously it's if your government and your history in your country, particularly for example for people that come from the US, has been, it's a lot of money going into assets are going up, and I was lucky enough to buy Nvidia, I don't know, at the beginning from it, and then I come out with a lot of money and I go somewhere else and I buy this house. This is gonna drive the prices up where those people live. And a person that maybe earns like $1,500 a month might not have the financial I don't know, power, to just the acquisition power to live in that space. And so I was wondering on a more aggregate global scale if how this would look like if in a case where people, because they're just unhappy in the West and they see what Traveler Jeff has been describing as well, just be like, no, I want more value for my money, and I'm not one of the richest, but somewhere else I can be someone. And then all those people that also obviously work really hard and also have their normal kind of aspirations and they're legitimate in their life, then they get to see all of these people come in somehow investing, which is great because it might create jobs for them in within the community. But then that, I'm not sure if, that's basically how far I get in my thoughts. And then sometimes I just hope that this can be done with a lot of sensitivity, where people can learn to share,
Yes.
where this can actually really be productive and not extractive growth. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Okay, so we'll just talk about Georgia, for instance. So when the war in Ukraine started, a lot of Russians showed up in Georgia. Hundreds of thousands of Russians showed up, and they were displaced, or they emigrated to there for a political reason. But and that created a dislocation in the housing market and in other markets that created inflation. But they also did bring their money and jobs and companies, and so that was very disruptive event. Absolutely correct. A slow trickle of migration is able to be absorbed by an economy a lot better.
Mm,
But I follow the crane counts in capital cities in most countries that I track. The crane count is the number of cranes erected in the capital city that are building high rise construction. And the crane count gives me an idea of what's going on in the economy. It's just one of the metrics I follow. The crane count in Tbilisi currently is like 50. And the number of buildings that have gone up in the last 6 years is just insane. And every other major city in Georgia has a high crane count as well. And yeah, as I show up into that economy, you're right. If I buy a house that's just, let's say, I buy a 400 square meter, just like Lambo's Chadbro house, whatever, that doesn't really have a net positive effect on the economy. It kind of creates social stress when you're coming there flexing. I don't find that most people that go over there are doing that. I would say that's the exception and not the rule. By and large, most people just come in. We're renters while we get to learn the market. Some people do buy immediately because you can get residency for it, but
mm,
that economy was able to adjust just prior to that when COVID was happening. um, they realized that they needed future housing. So that the government of Georgia and the two major banks in Georgia um, created a positive investment business environment where that construction could happen, and they financed it very well and they made it very affordable. And as a result, it's worked. They've overbuilt and oversaturated their market a little bit now. So prices are kind of stabilizing and coming down. But this is the way markets work. Sometimes there's too much demand and not enough supply. And then eventually there's enough supply. And then there's too much supply and not enough demand, and prices go down. So there will be temporary dislocations that'll occur. But when you're into those cultures over there, everybody still lives in multi-generational houses, and most people have already don't actually mortgage a home. I think home ownership rate is in the Caucasus, for instance, is incredible. It's one of the highest in the world, and there's the property taxes are extraordinarily low. I mean, very low, and they're based on your income, not based on the value of your property. Um, so they have a different system for providing housing and food for their people. They're also a primarily agrarian society still, although they're heavy in tech. Most people in Georgia live in the village on a farm, and they grow potatoes and grapes and other crops. You don't see a lot of big, corporate ag. So there's already like social safety nets in place that people can eat, people can be housed. Their families are large. They have lots of relatives. They all maybe live in the same block. When I say block, I mean like an area of a city would be called a block out there, and or commie blocks. The old Stalinistas, the big
mm,
homes Stalin built. So it's not like anybody's being displaced by this growth. Now, where the displacement does happen is some of that infrastructure that was built, depending on the time period when it was built, either in, let's say, Baku or Tbilisi. Depending on the time period, what was going on, the construction techniques and qualities can vary. There's some things that are really old that you definitely want to buy because they're great. And there's some things that were built 15 years ago that are already falling apart. When people are in a dangerous situation like that, those properties have to be condemned, but because everyone owns their apartment individually, it becomes kind of a complex situation. The way the government of Georgia is handling it, they're actually building new housing, a very high standard with developers and banks in order to house people who will be displaced by the necessary redevelopment of their city. So they've already taken into account how this is going to affect people. They don't just shove people out on the street. In America, they just call eminent domain and you're out of luck. Here's a check for pennies on the dollar and you're gone. But culturally, when you're in a smaller country, 4 to 6 million people, everybody tends to know everybody. And if you're in the government, like you got to eat lunch somewhere, and you can't go making these policies and still go out to dinner because your waiter will be yelling at you. Everybody will yell at you. Hey, what the hell is your problem? You're an asshole. And there is a degree of that that's happening anyway in their, domestic political conversation that they're happening. And it is in the form of protests that have been going on for like 88 days right now. And a lot of that, people from outside have been putting their thumb on the scale of that conversation. So the fair assessment of Georgia is that it's incredibly, and Azerbaijan and Armenia, to be honest, they're all incredibly socially stable, culturally stable, financially well managed, and able to receive the immigrants. Now, as I come in, I'm actually I've never had a negative experience in the East, ever. I've always been warmly received by everyone. I'm not just there to take pictures. I'm there in a different capacity. But I've had it on my mind not to be disruptive or consumptive, but to try to be cooperative and regenerative. And I find most people that travel from the West as far to the East as I'm going tend to have the same mindset. So Americans and Westerners are very well received because they're kind of getting the best of us thinking wise. They haven't seen our Karens, show up on a cruise ship and make unreasonable demands yet. And the other thing is, it's not readily accessible for Instagrammable, consumable moments. So when you go into a small island, or if you go into a small area of Thailand, where it's just loaded with trust fund kids and everyone's acting like an Instagram influencer, that's a different cultural presentation that does create a problem of overconsumption, over monetization of an area that displaces people and creates inflation and kind of locks out the locals. So that the tourist aspect can really destroy a local economy and a local people and create a resentment. But I don't see that as a danger in the Caucasus, for instance, just because they love tourism, they want more of it, and only the best people go there because it's kind of far away.
It's kind of funny that also somehow, well, first of all, thanks for sharing all of this. It's fantastic information. I think this is great. And it's kind of, I was wondering if like somehow cultural cohesion, because you mentioned that it's culturally a very, or ethnically a very homogeneous population, if that actually really plays a role or not, or if there may be other factors for that kind of sensitivity that they have created in those communities to somehow integrate or try to create like natural growth and not extractive growth, as I mentioned before.
Yeah. So there is quite a bit of immigrants um, uh, from other parts of the world in the capital cities. And there's a mechanism, undefined and unwritten, present in those cultures, specifically in the Caucasus, that view guests as a gift from God and predisposes them to making it easy for the people that are new to integrate. And so, for instance, there's 3 major medical universities in Tbilisi, and a lot of students from India who were going to go to college in America figured out it's a hell of a lot cheaper to go to college in Tbilisi, and the degree is accepted for to challenge American boards to work as a physician in America, for instance. So it just makes sense so there's a lot of Indian students at those medical universities, but they fully integrate. They really do. I mean, they don't speak Georgian fluently and dance, but I mean, the culture is already accepting of outsiders. And the young people, they grew up with the internet and they watched, Friends and, The Real World on MTV or Love Island or whatever the hell. So they've had all these, everybody's had these similar bonding experiences generationally. And when they show up at the university, they all just kind of get along. You don't see that tension. You just don't. I don't know why the West is so toxic about the way it handles immigration, but it's not.
Because I think it's sorry, but can I just
No, go ahead.
my answer to this would be just I think what is toxic is this strange attitude to have this obsession with this is our way of living, so our way of life, and this is the right way of life, and everything else is just wrong. That I think is the real problem because it's so accepted. You can even say it in TV. Certain politicians say it without any problem. And I think that is actually like recognizing in your life that there's actually a multitude, there's so many different ways to live your life, and they're all okay, they can all coexist, and it doesn't harm you. If anything, it just enriches you and your loved ones. That I think is the change. And then when I see, yeah, no, I would love to see these kind of integrations between the West and the East, if we can call it like this, or the North or the South, it can be global, that are kind of more creating some sort of harmony and growth that where both sides can somehow benefit from it. And I see that also like because you talked before about you know to use Bitcoin and gold as the hard money, and then somehow I think if I understood correctly, like apply some type of layer two where you can just somehow do transactions and use it as a currency. And I've been doing some experiments with this as well. And this is really something that when you connect these two dots and these two topics, and you can somehow transact true value that is based on true growth into globally onto other regions very quickly. Actually, the velocity of money is going to be super fast, and in a very coherently positive manner. Like you can I've been doing this experiment with an app. I think it's called Nexi or something, because it was really funny that you mentioned it. I literally just you can buy a Pax Gold or I don't know, some kind of like Tether Gold, and then just put it on your app and then pay with this in a store. Like literally, it converts it automatically into I'm dealing in euros, but for you it would be maybe dollars or the Georgian currency that I don't know of. But then yeah, you would probably just be able to pay with this, and this is great.
The Lari.
Sorry? What was the name?
No, it's the Georgian Lari.
Oh, okay.
Lari, Lari.
Yeah.
As the tech and the development catches up in the rest of the world and begins to equalize, the money system is going to naturally do the same. It's going to be very painful for the West because they've had, America especially, because America has had the monopoly on how the financial systems work. And Bitcoin does create the level playing field for everyone. And so I want to be clear, I still think Bitcoin as the base layer does more to advance the cause of world peace than probably any other innovation that's come out in 1,000 years, maybe longer, because it fixes the money. And if you fix the money, you can fix the world. Tesla had the same ideas with energy. If you're familiar with the work of Nikola Tesla, he wanted to create a free energy device that was powered by the earth to distribute DC power to give everyone free energy. And I'm here in Belgrade, Serbia currently, and I've learned a lot about Tesla. I've been to his museum, seen some of the monuments, done some reading, talked to a lot of people who grew up in Yugoslavia, know a lot about him. And what the concept of him distributing free energy to the world is very, very akin to the concept of Satoshi Nakamoto giving everybody a store of energy in Bitcoin. And so even though the energy that we need to produce value in goods and services in the economy isn't free, if the means of storing that value and energy can be a constant in the form of a Satoshi, then that really does democratize money and decentralizes it to where it can consume all opposing systems. But the journey there is very difficult. because those systems won't go quietly without kicking, screaming, and breaking a lot of things and people in the process. But yes, I agree that the ability for people to sit in the presence of others with differing opinions and differing cultures and not feel the need to slit each other's throats is a pretty important thing that humanity needs to learn. That's called tolerance. At the same time, real tolerance has to also understand that um, that you can't moralize the cultural and perceptions of some places where you're the foreigner. And so, like I said, when I visit someplace, I don't moralize their culture versus mine. I don't look at it that way. And they but I think that the mosaic of the world, the cultures of the world, all contribute, right, in their own individual way. And for people to go into a culture, they should be able to experience that culture, but they shouldn't seek to alter that culture, because to alter that culture is to homogenize the culture of the world eventually until we're all exactly the same. And that's a colorless and lifeless world in which I don't want to live, because there's no point in traveling anywhere. So
Yeah,
when I
agree.
encounter a culture, I try to go native. I try to be sensitive, and even I can take the good and I can leave it. Um, Bitcoin does create a lot of great conversations for me, especially with entrepreneurs and some people in governments. I do end up meeting government people. I don't know how or why, but like I just like walk into a shopping mall and I'll be like, oh, here's the minister of whatever, just in a jewelry shop, and I'm okay, and now we're going out to dinner, and then we stay in touch. Um, so I, from my taxi driver to the guy that handles luggage at the airport, to the lady that cleans the hotel room, to the person we will be renting a house from. When I go to the Green Bazaar, the person I buy vegetables from, I try to make a deep personal connection with everybody. And based on that, I leverage that into a conversation about money, about Bitcoin, just to see where they're at. And that's my own non scientific, anecdotal, statistical sampling mechanism that I use to formulate my opinions about where a certain society or a culture is at with adoption, where they're going, how they're going to accept it, whether it would work. And then I look at a lot of other geopolitical things that are going on in the area. I look at geography, I look at agricultural productive capacity, energy production, and a whole host of other factors: regulation, banking, currency stability, political stability. And then I form my own opinions. And like I said, my job is to at times share those opinions with people and get paid to do it. And But no, I the concerns of devaluing a culture through overconsumption are valid, but it's almost exclusively contained to places where Westerners vacation, not to where businessmen go and try to invest in building a new water pipeline.
Well, what a conversation.
Sorry,
Don't, please do not say sorry. The
I
I'm,
could go for hours with notes.
God, I want you to come back and talk some more. Um, I'm conscious of it's coming up to 10 o'clock, obviously. Guys, and you know, whenever I come on or I'll kick off these podcasts, I'm often on my own, and I think, oh, will anyone come in? Will they not come in? And then I often sit there now. I don't even put anything on a piece of paper other than I wonder where it will go, the conversation, and it's just incredible. It's amazing for me personally to experience people coming on here and sharing their nice philosophical experiences in life, and I find it so enriching, that knowledge, and I can't thank you enough. Absolutely, really can't. It's fascinating. I don't even know if there's anyone in the, because this is all live. I don't even know if anyone's still in the live chat, but it's gone very. It just went all quiet, and I think everyone was. Hopefully, if people were there, they were just listening away. And I don't know about Kem. Did you enjoy that one, LV? And Traveller Jeff, have you enjoyed that as well? Whoever wants to answer, or you don't have to, or you can just admire.
Loving it.
You can just
I
admire the
like
lady in the background. Sorry.
I really like hearing the different viewpoints from around the world. It's always so interesting because it like the more guests that we get on here to speak about their experiences, the more collectively we could all have a better picture of, what the heck's going on. So yeah, man, Travel with Jeff, man. Oh my gosh. So great to talk to you on here.
Yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I can't thank anyone enough. I mean, it's obviously it for anyone that wants to come on, you can see how it takes a lot of confidence, obviously, but it's just a free flow. I love it because it's just like I've just met you four in a bar and we've just had a conversation, four of us, and that's what it should be about, and it's so enriching, especially when times are difficult for us to try and work out and navigate our way through this cycle.
Confusing.
Yeah, extracting. Yeah, it's so confusing, so confusing. But I like the takes of what people when people do come on and express their experiences. It's so cool because the deep dive that I always get is that we're all caring, loving people trying to, just be normal. And it's so enriching to see. It really is, and it's enriching to hear. It's what the base layer of getting on about base layer in my eyes when I talk about it. That's what base layer community is all about. And maybe we're at a stage where we're going to start to rebuild that from that base layer up again. And what I always say, the boys clubs are going to play the boys club things on that chessboard, and they're going to do that whether I like it or not. But it's down to me to negotiate my way around the community that I live around on a day-to-day basis, and try and bring that stability around that, and understand what's going on a little bit, and rebuild a bit of that good old community spirit again. Whether that's possible or not, I don't know, but this is a great start, that's for sure. So thank you so much, and please come back. You're more than welcome to come back. Sorry?
I'll try to bring a Bitcoiner on. I'll try to give you a heads up if I can find one when I'm in every country if I can.
Yeah, no.
Nice. Spreading the world, just traveling Jeff, just giving out business cards, be like, hey, come stop in here.
Yeah.
Bitcoin meetup, worldwide Bitcoin meetups going on here.
The fascinating thing, whether it's Bitcoin, gold, silver, a lot of the community that I'm in the UK is precious metals as well. I mean, I love my precious metals, but we all roughly around the same ideological way of thinking, and so to bring that together is just building this community in the background is just brilliant, and having this means we've got no border restriction. Absolutely none, So we get that real experience of what people are doing. Obviously, 1LV. You're still in Italy, one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in Italy still for a bit, and I think I'm going to move to for some time. I think I'm going to go to South America. So maybe I'll try to talk to some people there and then give some feedback, see what the situation is there.
Yeah, brilliant. It's great, and obviously Kem in America, and we've got Traveller Jim. Traveller Jim. Where's that come from? Traveller Jeff.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It's my old age.
1LV, where are you at in Italy?
Close to Milan, actually.
Okay.
Close to Milan. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Close to Milan. I'll be in Rome probably sometime before May, and I'll probably be passing up that way. I'll definitely be passing up that way. I'll come over on a ferry from Tirana to Bari, and then I'll be with my kids on a school trip, taking them through Rome. But yeah, just try to keep in touch through the podcast, and maybe we can connect in Milan.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, let me know. I mean, if I'm around, then I'm here. Then I'm totally down for it. I might already be gone because I'm kind of like aiming at maybe late March, April. But yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll be there in May. I have no idea. But yeah, it would be great. Actually, it's good to see you here. It's good to see new faces, and also, I mean, you're not that new. I saw you the other day, I think a month ago or something, in the Bitcoin talk, and I thought like, oh man, I have to talk to this guy, and I was just listening in though. Yeah, so it's good to see you.
It's enriching. Kem, thanks for coming on, dude. You enjoyed it?
Oh, good. Oh yeah. Yeah. Missed you last week by a few minutes, I think.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was sitting there and I think, oh, no one's going to turn up and no one's going to turn up. And I was thinking, I could sit here for the next 2 hours. No one will turn up. So I thought, oh, sorry, I'll finish, you know.
Yeah.
But
That's so clever.
Yeah, but boy.
Oh, good.
What's the schedule? When do you start your lives and what days?
Okay, this happens every Sunday. I open this up every Sunday, and normally about 7:30 onwards, UK time, for anyone that wants to drop in, really. And we talk about anything really. The whole point of the Sunday one is just for literally down the pub, have a chat, see where it goes, see where it takes us, and then every 4 weeks on a Wednesday, I've started to do a Bitcoin only one. So it's just purely Bitcoin. So if anyone's interested in learning about Bitcoin or just talking about Bitcoin or coming on and learning a little bit more about Bitcoin and just sharing their Bitcoin journeys, yeah, we're going to do that every 4 weeks. But I always update on my post on the W.O.T podcast, in the community post part of what's going on. Yeah. Oh, it's great. Never ceases to amaze me. I can't, interacting with people is just so powerful. It's ridiculously powerful, and I can't thank you guys enough. Does anyone want to say anything before I go? Sorry, one over.
When's the next Bitcoin podcast again?
The 19th of March.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I do it every 4 weeks. I'll see how it goes, and if it gets any bigger, we might. It's just the same sort of thing. It's just a virtual way, because lots of people live all over the world, and it's a great way of extending what I'm doing here. But I like my Bitcoin, and I do personally believe it's going to play a part in the future, and it's good to talk about it more. So yeah, it's good. Does anyone want to say anything else?
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Follow me on X, Traveler Jeff.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I certainly will. Thank you, guys. You take good care. Look after yourself. Bless you all. And thank you for anyone that's been in the chat. And sorry, KB. I've got to apologise, because I was getting very distracted by one person. Trying to ask stuff that wasn't really in the flow of what I was doing on this podcast. So I did delete their messages to take away. But I do apologise, KB. I hope you forgive me. But hey ho, sorry. Take good care, guys. Thank you very much, and hopefully I'll see you all again soon.
See you soon. Yeah.